Hello, Mr. Dabo, are you there? QTV, can we kindly have Mr. Dabo on the screen, please? Obi Van, are you there? Can we have some information from the OB van regarding what's happening? Hello, Mr. Dabo. Are you there?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Can we have the witness on the screen, please? Okay, thank you very much. Good morning to you, Mr. Dabo. I realize it's about 7 a.m. in Seattle, Washington, USA.
Yes.
You're about 8 hours behind.
Right, 7:05 now.
Yes, thank you very much for waking up so early to give us your testimony.
Thank you.
And before we start, I would have to give you the affirmation. Because you're on video conference, we wouldn't be able to swear you with the Quran, unfortunately, so you'll have to take an affirmation. So just repeat after me.
Okay.
I
I,
say your name,
Omar M. Dabo,
affirm that
affirm that
I will speak the truth,
I will speak the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Mr. Dabo, can you clearly just speak up to the hearing of the commission? We are not able to hear you properly. Adjust your volume or increase your voice.
Maybe I adjust the volume.
Yes, maybe adjust the volume a little bit for us. And just speak like how you would address your men at a parade, you know, loudly in the army.
How is it? How is it now?
Usually you guys speak very loudly.
Especially me, I have a very manly voice.
Indeed, as one would expect from a man. Thank you very much. All right, I will just give you some rules and regulations that we have here at the TRRC before we begin.
Okay.
The most important rule here is your duty to tell the truth, because this is a truth-seeking commission.
Okay.
So therefore, we expect that you tell the truth, and it is a criminal offense to lie before the TRRC. And that is provided under the TRRC Act, as well as under the general laws of the Gambia.
Okay.
Interpreters, I don't know if it's possible to have some interpretation in Wolof or Mandinka. They're not hearing. Okay, so is that something we need to sort out? Can you please sort that out, Mr. Usher, please, for us? Meanwhile, I think we'll just continue until we get that sorted out. Can we have the witness on the screen? Thank you very much. Mr. Dabo, you're speaking in English, but in the background of the commission, we have interpreters into the various local languages, so just keep that in mind as you give your testimony. So you would have to give very brief statements so that they will be able to follow, interpret, and so that the audience can also hear you and understand.
Okay.
Also listen to my questions carefully and then answer, leaving a short gap in between so that our speeches do not overlap.
Okay.
We are going to have testimony over a session here, or more than a session, about 2 hours or so. So therefore, just make yourself comfortable and just treat this as a conversation that myself and you will be having.
Okay.
You've already provided a statement to us, which I have before me, but I will just remind you of the relevant, important bits that we will focus on in your testimony. I know that there's a lot to be said, but within this short time, we have to really summarize what you have to say into the important bits, which is the human rights violations that you suffered.
Okay.
So we will therefore concentrate on your, after giving a brief summary of your biographical information, which will include your education, your professional background, and training. We will also just look at your torture, your arrest first at the State House whilst you were posted there, and then subsequently your detention at the NIA and your torture there over 2 consecutive occasions. And then you were detained at the Mile 2 prisons. Subsequently, you were tried before the Canifing Magistrates Court, and then the case was transferred to the High Court. Later, you were actually discharged from those charges, and then you were subsequently discharged from the army. You were released, and then subsequently you went into exile. Correct me if I'm wrong, I believe these are the main subjects that we will be dealing with in your testimony today.
Yes.
Okay. Interpreters, have we sorted out the issue? Okay, so then we'll just proceed because it's already late and we need to move on. Kindly tell us what your full names are as we begin your testimony.
My names are Omar M. Dabo.
Can you tell us what the M stands for?
M is my father's name, which is Mafuji.
Okay, so you adopted your father's name.
Into the army, yes.
Okay, kindly.
Omar M. Dabo.
Very well. And do you have any titles that you would like us to note?
Mr. Dabo.
Not Lieutenant Dabo
No.
or Lieutenant Dabo. Okay, then we'll refer to you as Mr. Dabo.
Thank you.
All right. Can you tell us where and when you were born?
I was born in Sandeng village,
Where is that?
Young West, Lower River Division at the time, now Lower River Region.
Very well. And when was this?
March 7th, 1972.
And is this where you lived for most of your life?
Yes, especially my childhood life, yes.
Okay. Where else did you live in the Gambia?
Most of it in the Combos.
Around what area?
Bundung, London Corner.
Okay.
Yes.
And where do you presently live?
I live in Seattle, Washington,
In which country?
U.S.
Okay. And how long have you been living there?
Since 2012.
Kindly give us some background into your education, please.
I started my primary schooling at Sinteti Primary School.
And where is
I
that?
was too young to. Sinteti is in Fonyi.
Very well.
Yeah, I was too young to be away from home, so I couldn't continue, and then I have to go back to the village.
Okay.
So the next academic year, I was taken to Kalaji Primary School.
And that is still in the Funyis?
Yes, Kalaji. So Kalaji, I was staying with my parents. I walked to school and come back home.
Do you remember the dates?
No, let's be with the years now, with the year.
Okay, you can't remember the year.
The years, yes, but the dates, no.
Okay, then just give me the years. That's fine.
Kalagi, I was there 78 to 86. No, 85.
What about Sintet?
Sintet was just 1 year, I think it's 77, 78.
Okay, very well. And tell us what happened after you finished from Kalaji.
After 6 years of primary school in Kalaji, I came to Latrikunda Savage Primary School to repeat common entrance. That's where I passed in 1986 and went to Nusra High School.
And that was in the Combos, Latrikunda?
Exactly, Latrikunda Savage.
Okay, so when did you start at Nusrat?
Nusrat 1986.
And how long did you attend Nusrat?
5 years. I did my O-levels in 1991.
What happened when you finished school?
When I finished my O-levels, I went to Gambia High School to do my A-levels.
And what happened thereafter?
That was 91, 93. And 94, I enlisted into the Gambia National Army.
Tell us how the recruitment selection went.
Our whole recruitment process was done at Union Barracks.
Yeah, please go on, Mr. Dabo.
Yeah, between the months of April, May, and June. And when the selection was finally confirmed, those selected were issued with a letter of appointment to report at Farafenni Army Barracks on the 28th of July 1994 for basic recruit training.
And that was just a few days after the coup d'etat?
Before the coup d'etat.
Okay. So what happened?
So when the coup d'etat happened, July 22nd, an announcement was made over Radio Gambia that, our training has been put up until further notice. And early in December, or late December, going to early January, another announcement came, and we were asked to report at Fajara Barracks this time around. Yeah, so that's where I did my recruit training.
And when was this? When did you finally do it?
January 1995 to April 95. I think we passed out in May.
And can you tell us the number of your batch?
Recruit intake 17.
And what happened when you finally completed your recruitment training?
After recruitment training, I was posted at Fajara Barracks as a private soldier.
And what kind of duties were you doing there?
Normal guard duties.
How long?
Installations and barracks secure as well, yes.
And how long were you at Fajara Barracks?
I was at Fajara Barracks for 2 years.
During these 2 years?
As a private soldier.
Okay, just tell us during the 2 years what kind of progress you made into the army in terms of training or promotions.
Yeah, while at Fajara Barracks, I sat to CSB Cadet Selection Board, confirmed as an officer cadet. I passed and confirmed as an officer cadet. And then was under officers there, to start training me about the basic responsibilities of my rank to be, which is a second lieutenant. But then I was an officer cadet. I was being trained and groomed by the RSM there. I remember Lieutenant, I was with the late Lieutenant Salih Dem, and yes, as an officer cadet, those were basically my functions, yes.
Okay, and at the time, who was the commander there at Fajara Barracks?
At the time, the commander there was
At the time?
yes. Major, he was major then, but I think later promoted to lieutenant colonel, yes.
Okay, and whilst you were officer cadet, did you receive any overseas training?
Yes, while as an officer cadet, me with four others, making five of us went for our YOC, Young Officers Course in Ghana in August 95.
Where in Ghana did you attend this course?
Ghana Military Academy in Deshi.
Okay, and who were your batchmates? Or the officers that you went to train with?
Yes, Serigne Modou Ndiaye.
Are you referring to?
Okay, I think now there was a comrade. Lieutenant was a comrade.
Is it the same one that testified before the TRRC?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, yes.
All right.
And Yaya Dabo, we call him YMS Dabo, he also testified, I think last week.
Very well. And who else?
And Lalo Jaite.
Who also testified at the TRRC as well?
Exactly.
Okay. How long did this course take?
We were in Ghana from August to December.
And when you finally returned, were you promoted?
Yes. We commissioned as a second lieutenant, yes.
So where were you posted to on your return from Ghana?
I continued to be posted at Fajara Barracks.
Okay. Until what year?
From 95 to 98.
And what happened in 1998? Did you go anywhere else?
Yes, 1998 I was transferred to Farafenye Army Barracks.
Okay. And what was your position there at Farafenye?
Farafenye, I was a platoon commander.
And as a platoon commander, can you just tell us briefly what your duties were?
As a platoon commander within the barracks, your duties is mainly dealing with your platoon in every aspect of military life. Training, yes.
So you were leading a platoon, which was how many men?
13 men.
And who was the officer commanding at Farafenye Barracks at the time?
No, it's CO now.
Oh, very well. CEO, commanding officer.
Yes, commanding officer, Farafenye, yes, commanding officer.
All right.
That was SP Mendy.
What did the SP mean or stand for?
Sanper Mendy, the late Sanper Mendy.
Okay. And what was his rank?
SP was a major.
Very well. Was he the only commanding officer during the time that you were at Farafenye?
No. Towards the end of my stay in Farafenye, SP was relieved by Captain Babukar Keita.
Okay.
Who, at the time I was leaving Farafenye, was my CO.
Very well. And what other duties did you attend to at Farafenye?
While in Farafenye, we go on a 6 months rotation to Kudang and Basse. These are army camps, that are under 2BN's jurisdiction.
So you would leave Farafenye with your platoon and then move to either Kudang or Basse for 6 months at a time.
Yes. You start at Kudang. Then you become an OC there now, officer commanding.
Very well.
6 months. Then you move to Basse to relieve the officer in Basse, who will be coming back to Farafenye while a platoon has left Farafenye for Kuda.
All right. And then after that, you would go back to Farafenye, I assume, with your platoon.
Yes.
Whilst you were at Farafenye, did you travel on any mission at all?
Yes. While I was in Farafenye, I went on a peacekeeping mission to Guinea-Bissau.
Can you tell us whether this was a...
From Farafenye, yes.
You traveled to
It was ECOWAS.
All right. It was an ECOWAS peace mission.
Yes, ECOWAS peace mission.
And how long did the peace mission last?
It ended abruptly, and then we had to return home. So I think, if my memory serves me right, 5-6 months. I may be wrong there, but it's thereabout.
Was there any particular reason why it ended abruptly?
Yeah, because the government at the time was overthrown by the factions that were fighting against them, which was Ansumana's faction. So I understand the sponsors didn't deem it necessary any longer, to keep us there.
Indeed, all right. Because you were under a different regime now.
Yes.
All right, okay. Kindly tell us what happened when you returned back to the Gambia after that mission in Guinea-Bissau.
Yeah, when I returned back from Guinea-Bissau, I went back to my post Farafenye. And towards the end of 1999, I remember I was in Basse. And then after my 6 months ended, I came to Farafenye. One day I was informed by my CO that they received a situation report, I think they call it at the time, whatever. But yes, they received a transfer notice that I was being transferred from Farafenye to State House.
And that was your CEO at the time was Babukar Keita, is that right?
Yeah, yes.
So you reported to State House, and what happened there?
Yeah, I think I reported at State House in March. And there was renovation going on at State House then.
March of which year are you referring to, Mr. Dabo? Sorry to interrupt you.
March of 2000 this time.
Okay, please go on.
Yeah, so Yaya Jammeh was mostly staying at Kanilai.
Because of the renovations that were going on at State House, Banjul.
Exactly.
And which Yaya Jammeh are you referring to?
The former president.
Okay, very well. Please proceed.
Yeah, so I was on the ground with my CO, Captain Usman Sonko, and a sizable number of troops, because majority of them are where the principal is, which was Kanilai.
And you're referring to the State Guard unit now?
Yes, I'm referring to the State Guard unit.
And what was your position there at the State Guard after you were transferred there?
I was kind of second in command, because shortly after I arrived, the senior man on the ground, which was Captain Kausu Sanya, went out for training, I think to Libya or something like that. Yeah, so because in military there is never vacancies. Of course, me being the next senior among the young officers on the ground there, I have to touch it.
So you, by default, you became the second in command?
Yes, next to Usman Sonko. That is for officers who were at inside State House then. But if you include the officers who were with the Yaya Jammeh Kanilai, then I fall way down the pecking order as far as my seniority is concerned.
Thank you, but you are talking specifically about State House Banjul.
Yes.
So as far as that is concerned, you were de facto second in command?
Yes, because Sonko, I would directly take my instructions from him on a day-to-day basis regards to impress, feeding and postings. So naturally I was his second in command.
And at that time, what was your position or your rank?
I was a lieutenant.
And after you were posted in March 2000, did anything significant happen whilst you were there at the State Guard?
Yes, two things of significance happened there. One was April 10 and 11. That found me at State House, which was a national issue. But then May, June, myself, I was arrested.
And I believe that is what we're going to focus on in your testimony, your personal arrest and victimization.
Okay.
Yes, we have received a lot of evidence on April 10th and 11th, so I don't think it's necessary to go into it.
No, I don't think either.
Okay, thank you for that. So let us know, tell us what happened on the day of your arrest. Can you remember the date at all?
Yeah, on the fateful day of Thursday, June 20 something.
Was it the 28th of June?
Yes, 28th of June, I think, yes.
What time?
After midnight. So it became the early hours of morning on a Friday because it's already after midnight now.
So that would then be the 29th of June, I believe.
Yes.
Okay, so how did it happen?
Yeah, I was duty officer. And as duty officer, you are the most senior on the ground.
At the State House in Banjul?
At the State House in Banjul.
All right.
I had QRF.
Which is?
Oddly Sergeant.
Tell us what QRF is.
Quick Reaction Force. I worked with two sergeants. One was an oddly sergeant, the other was my immediate sergeant, yes.
Can you remember their names?
I think one was Omar Top, and the other was another Omar. So I remember we were making fun at Pentagon. Three Omars happened to be on duties at the same time.
Including yourself, yes.
Yes, exactly. Omar Top was one. I don't know who was the other Omar, but yes.
Okay.
Yes. One who was oddly sergeant.
Yeah. Please go on.
Yeah, so I was with them at the Pentagon. There is an area of State House called Pentagon. It's almost bordering the National Museum by the fence. So we were there doing the Gambian thing, attire, and I think playing Scrabble. And then after 10, 11, I told them I was going out to my office, to get myself prepared for the night. Yeah, so I came by the back door of State House, which goes towards Marina Parade, yes.
Marina Parade.
Yes. So we moved to that structure there. I forgot the name again, but I moved the clinic there and our office structures into that complex, within my short period I've been there.
Are you referring to the accident and emergency unit of the RVH?
Yes, yes. Just by that there is a structure there that now houses the army medics, and some other, yes.
So that's where your office was located?
Exactly. So it's outside the main state house fence.
Oh, okay.
So I went to my office, do my things, and then get myself prepared for the night. Right when I was about to leave my office, my Motorola, which was issued to us, our officers, ran. When I picked the phone and looked at it, I saw my residence number in mile 7. I thought maybe my wife was calling me. When I received the call, there was Jaite's wife, Bintu, on the line crying.
Which Jaite are you referring to?
Lieutenant Jaite, Lieutenant Lalo Jaite's wife, Bintu.
What's her full name?
So, Bintu Keita.
Okay.
Yes. But I call her Bintu Keita Jaite.
Very well.
Yeah, so Bintu was on the phone crying, and hello, and she spoke in Mandinka. Hey, Omar, mask me no pele nada jai ya samba.
Please give us the interpretation for those of us who don't understand Mandinka.
Yes, hey, Omar, masked soldiers came to our house and took away Lao. I told her, okay, calm down, stay there. I'll get back to you. I tried my little best, on the phone to calm her down. And then that's when I rang off the phone and then came downstairs.
Can you tell us why Bintu was calling you about Lalo? Did you have any special relationship with Lalo Jaite at all?
We lived in the same streets in mile 7.
That was official army residence?
Not only army, official civil servant residence.
Okay.
We have army officers there, police officers there, and I think some other civil servants from, but yes, I live on the same street with Jaite. So that was one. And 2 years, I had a personal relationship with Lalo Jaite.
And you were in the same class as well? The same batch?
No, not class.
He was your batchmate at some point?
As for
in the army?
Training, yes.
Yes.
It started at Nusra. He was my junior at Nusra. We were all in the same neighborhood along Bantaba Street in Bundu. So my intake is 17, his intake is 18. And we went on course together. We came back, we were all at one point posted at Fajara Barracks before he was then transferred to Farafenye.
So you had a close relationship?
Naturally.
Yes, okay. So,
professional relationship.
Yes, and it seemed also personal relationship. You were friends?
Yes, of course, yes.
Tell us what happened after you received the phone call.
Yeah, so after I received that call, I had to try and calm her down. Other good thing is she was with my wife there, so naturally that role would fall on my wife as two women under one roof with me on duty. duties for that night. Yeah, so, but I came down, went through the back door, stopped at the Sangha there, and start to brief my men about the night.
What is the Sangha there?
Sangha. A Sangha is it's a post.
Thank you.
You know, yes. Yeah, so I stopped at the Sangha there to brief my men about the night. Yeah, because that's how I was trained to do, and that's the right thing to do. When you're going into the night, you have to brief your men so that you will all be on the same wavelength, should there be any need for anything. Yeah, so my briefing was about that.
But apart from the briefing, what was going through your mind having just received a phone call from Lalo's wife telling you that he had been arrested?
It's like, what's going on? Yeah, so but I have to draw a line between, like you say, a personal family problem and my official functions and duties at that moment. Yeah, so the first Sangha, of course, I had to speak to them. Then I moved on. I decided to go straight to Pentagon. And maybe my reason of going there was to go and inform my sergeants that maybe I'll be leaving post for a while, you know, to go home and come back. Yes, maybe that's why I was going back to Pentagon. And as I was walking towards Pentagon, a few meters before the house or the building.
Which building are you referring to?
This place we call Pentagon.
Okay.
Yes, a few meters before. Then I received a command from somewhere behind me, saying, "Halt, hands up." Of course, in military, we all know what that means. Yeah, so I stood and raised my hands up, and then I start to see figures emerging from my front. And because containers were parked there because of the renovation, so they use those containers as covers. Yes.
So they were hiding behind the containers.
Exactly. So when they emerged from the front, I knew others came from behind me.
And were these all military men?
Yes, these were all military men. Dressed and armed.
Tell us how they were dressed and what they were armed with.
They were dressed with, at that point in time, the only thing that became visible was their headgear. It's like what we call hoodie type, and it was rolled over their heads with only the eyes, mouth, and maybe the ear showing. So you only see that figure.
So they were masked?
Yes, they were masked.
And what weapons were they carrying?
They were all carrying AK-47s, some with PEL.
Which means?
Propel grenade launcher.
Okay.
Yeah, state guard had those as their personal weapons, you know, with which most of the rifles would be equipped with that facility. Yes, so, but yes, most of them had that as with them.
Okay. So how were you able to identify them as military men or soldiers if all you could see was the opening in their mouths and eyes and ears, and you couldn't really tell how they were dressed?
Yeah, for the dress, I later came to see that clearly. But as at that point in time, one, the lightning was not very good, and two, I think the last thing I would think of at that time is what dress is someone wearing? Having put at gunpoint with your hands raised up.
Fair enough,
So
Mr. Dabo.
Dress code was not something at that point I was interested in knowing.
Okay. What about their mask? Did you remember the color?
Again, that was when I was taken to another place. We will get to that point.
Carry on then. Tell us what happened afterwards.
Yeah, so when I was made to halt and they closed on me, then I came to know that it's not only the few I saw in my front, there are others behind me.
How many were they, if you can remember?
At that time, I don't know how many, but when I later, they could be about 7, 8 men, or yes, which is a section strength, or at most it won't be more than 10.
So they surrounded you, and what happened after they surrounded you?
I heard a voice saying, "We know you are armed, so don't do anything stupid." Which I agree, because I was on duty, so I was entitled to carry my personal arm, which was a Mark 4 pistol. Yeah, so they tapped me on my back and then pull out the pistol. And they went further to tap all the way down and everywhere of me to see whether that was the only weapon I was carrying. Yes, and then they pulled my hand down and put me in handcuffs. So when I was cuffed, someone hold me on my right side, another hold me on my left side, and walk me towards a parked vehicle. Yes. Was the vehicle there before I left? I don't know, because there are vehicles everywhere in State House in those times. Yeah, so when we walked to a parked vehicle, they opened the door. I thought to do something, which again I was trying to be professional, because it was a short distance from the Pentagon. I wanted to stand and kind of say to my sergeants, take charge, knowing that was the right thing to do officially.
Because you were in command then?
I was in command then, so when you took me away, right, I have to pass on my command. So that caused me to kind of stop, wanting to say that word. So, but as they were trying to put me in, I think, and I was trying to resist a bit, then I received a hard hit on my back, around my shoulder blade here. Whether it was a kick or a rifle butt, I have no no idea.
Because it was done from behind.
Yes, it was done from behind. So that kind of pushed me in, and then with that force from these two guys and from behind, I was pushed into a double cabin pickup, the back seat.
And what did you feel from that sharp kick or rifle butt on your back?
What do I feel?
Yes, what did you feel?
Of course, pain.
And did you suffer any injuries from that?
From this rifle butt?
Yes.
It will all culminate later into something, so I can't say exactly it is this. So, but from the start to the end of this whole thing, when something comes up, of course, I attribute it to the whole situation.
Did you later suffer from anything around the area that you were kicked or rifle butted?
When we were discharged from mile 2, let's fast forward. I had to go. I was going to RVH over and over for check-up rather.
That's all right.
I later went to MRC, and there I was diagnosed as suffering from sciatic nerve. So up to this moment, I have a back pain that goes on and off.
And you attribute that back pain from that hit that you received on that day?
No. I say it was the starting off.
It started it?
Yes. We will get, as we are going, you will get to get the whole understanding of what could cause my back pain.
Okay.
Yes,
So you were, yes. So you were shoved into this packed vehicle that was waiting for you. What happened after that?
And then sandwich, they all jumped into their various parts of the vehicle. I don't know. So, but when I sat now, I realized the handcuffs on me were closing up, different from when they initially put it on me. So my little interaction with police officers, I came to understand that they had a name for that type of handcuff where when they put it on you, the more you move about, the more it keeps tightening up. Yeah, and that grabbed my wrist, while I was seated in the vehicle there.
So as you were moving about, the handcuffs were basically tightening their grips on your wrist?
Yes.
Getting tighter and tighter?
Yes.
Can you tell us what kind of feeling you got from that? If you want to talk about it, Mr. Dabo, I know how difficult this is for you. So if it's something you're comfortable talking about, go ahead. If not, then you could move on.
Excuse me to say, when you ask those type of questions, I kind of, what was I feeling?
Yes. We just want to know as much as possible what you actually went through, the suffering and the pain that you went through. It's something that's important to the commission.
Yeah, but you are seated in a vehicle, handcuffed now, that handcuff's closing on, restricting your blood flow, pain, in your mind, not only pain now, but is this real? So To cut it short, I was in that confused state.
That's
Yes.
fine. That's fine. So where did the vehicle go?
The vehicle left State House through the main gate, drove for some time, and then I saw them signaling. Gates were opened, and we were inside the NIA premises.
At this point, were you told why you were being taken to the NIA or what the reason for your arrest was?
No, there was not a single conversation from that point of arresting me to that point when we arrived at NIA.
Okay. So what happened to you when you got to NIA?
Yeah, when we got to the NIA, I was brought down. They hold me on my shoulder still and then walked me out. I walked with them towards a particular place, and then before I know, a door was opened, which was a cell. And then they shoved me in. It's not like putting me in, no. They've pushed me in.
You were violently pushed into the cell.
Cells. Yes. So I almost turned to ask, how about the cuffs? The door slammed behind me.
And at this point, you had
Yeah,
already
no,
told
and then-
us that these cuffs were tightening their grip on your wrist. You were in pain, and they
Yes.
still left you in the
Yes.
in the handcuffs.
Yes.
For how long were you in that
they left
cell
me.
with the handcuffs?
I have no recollection of time, but I know when they came back to take me out for a second time, it must have been there. I must have been there for an hour or so.
Do you know if this was deliberately done, leaving these painful cuffs on your hands?
I later came to know they were going to do some more arrest. Right? So, did they forget? I don't know. Did they deliberately leave them on me? I don't know. But going by the little confrontation we had at State House, I can have the belief that, they were deliberately left on me. That's my belief.
Just like they chose special cuffs to put on you, not just the normal cuffs, but a special gripping cuff, which was a form of torture, I believe. That's what they chose to put on you rather than normal ones.
Of course, yes.
So tell us what happened at the NIA after you were put into those cells. Do you know what particular cell you went into at that time?
I later came to know that particular cell was the Bambadinka.
The notorious Bambadinka
Most of
that
it-
we've heard of at the
Yes.
TRRC.
Exactly. I watched your visit there.
The NIA
that
visit.
Gave me yes, your NIA visit. So that gave me a very good recollection of where I was first kept for that hour, and then later moved to another cell. So yes, I was first held in the notorious Bambadinka.
So tell us what your time at NIA entailed after that. What happened?
Yeah, they brought me out after an hour, took the cuffs off, and stood me by their vehicle in the open veranda there. That's when I first set my eye on Jaite.
Which
Lalo
Jaita?
Lalo Jaite.
Under what
So it's
circumstances
like
did you see him?
they were moving him from one end of NIA to that cell I was first kept at.
And that was the first time you
So in
saw
that-
him after you received news from his wife that he had been arrested?
Exactly. Yeah, so I knew, okay, now me and Ajaite are all within the same premises.
Did you make any connection as to whether it was the same issue you had been arrested for?
We did not even get to talk much more to know whether it's the same issue.
But you were told by Jaita's wife that armed men who were masked, similar to the team that arrested you, were the same ones who
Yes.
removed him
So
from his
I
house.
said to myself, oh, okay, now that he's here, yeah, but I didn't get that from him.
Okay.
Yes, I make up that, yes.
You came to that conclusion from the circumstances
yes.
around your arrest, both of your arrests.
Yeah.
So you said, well,
So-
yeah, go ahead.
While standing by that parked vehicle there, that's when two of them chose to roll up their mask. And I came to know their identities. One was Buba Jame, and another was Ismaila Jame.
And Buba Jame,
These were all soldiers.
did he have any other names?
Buba Jame. I
Yeah.
didn't serve long with him at State House to know a nickname, but I think he had a nickname. Could it be Kanilai? I may be wrong.
Very well. And Ismail Jame, who was he?
Ismaila too was, I think he was ugly to Yaya Jame at the time.
Did they have any other
Or
kind
at some
of
point.
relationship, both Ismail Jame and Buba Jame to Yaya
Oh,
Jame?
yeah, they are brothers, cousins, or all natives of Kanilai. So they are the two who chose to reveal their identity.
Do you know why they chose to do that when everyone else was covered up?
I think some soldiers who chose not to show their identity was like not comfortable to do it.
So why were they comfortable?
That's what Mandinkas call Ninsamoe Bambu.
I would like to hear that in English, please.
Yes. If you are up an elephant, you are safe from wet grasses.
Kindly give us the
So in
interpretation.
essence, they are Yaya Jame's brothers or relatives. And I knew they were doing that mission for Yaya Jame. So they don't care. Me recognizing them.
So they had nothing to fear because they were untouchable because of their connection with Yaya Jame.
There you go. Others chose not to. And when I heard some names, I was kind of saying, wow, so this guy was also among, but I never know. No. Up to this day, these are the only two identified.
But what other names came up, if you can share with us? Although you
I
didn't
heard
see
Jaden
them.
mentioning Paul Bojan in his testimony. Yeah, Paul can't show me his face.
Can you tell us more precisely if these people were part of any particular group in the military or connected to Yaya Jame?
Yes, before I get to that, let me make this clear. Among them also was when I came to see a white man from that part of his body that was showing. And I don't think even he put on a mask.
You don't think, or
Francisco Caso.
Can you tell us whether he had a mask or he didn't have a mask, and how you were able to
I don't
identify
remember.
him?
I vividly know, oh, that's the white man I've been seeing around the house.
What was his name?
Francisco Caso.
Who was he?
Francisco Caso.
Yes.
Francisco, I saw him around State House. I later came to understand he was training some men in Kanilai. And the rest is history.
What men was he training in Kanilai? Did they have a particular name?
The men came to be known as the junglers.
And of course, the two names that you've mentioned, both Ismail Jame and Buba Jame, have been connected to the junglers, and Ismail Jame in particular testified at the Trrc. Can you confirm that?
Yeah. Yes.
So what happened after that?
Yes, when we stood there for some time, they kind of admit me. I think my names were put on their register. The belongings I had on me were taken away. Interestingly or coincidentally, that's the uniform I was wearing on my day of arrest.
Okay, the picture that's on the wall directly behind you.
Yeah, the picture, this is how I was exactly dressed.
In full military gear.
In full military gear, French camo. So they took off the jacket, took off my combat boots, my wristwatch, wallet, cigarette, because I used to smoke at the time, and they were all admitted at the NIA front desk. So I was now taken to another cell, and then doors slammed behind me, they left.
So you were in half gears and you had no shoes on?
No.
Okay. Did anything happen to you that night, your first night at the NIA?
First night at the NIA?
Yes.
Yes, this was the early hours of the morning. You sit at a corner in the cell there, try to absorb it all in.
Because at this point you didn't know why you had been arrested. Nobody told you anything.
Yes. But here I am in the cells of the NIA. My wrist was burning, but now that they have taken it off, as I was sitting at the corner there, I tried to do this to facilitate the flow of the blood. And wondering. That's how I spent the first night in there.
What was the condition of the cell?
The conditions of the cells in NIA. Bad.
How bad?
Very bad.
Can you describe the bad state it was in?
Again, the first day, that's the last thing you would want to look out for.
But maybe subsequently, because how long did you spend at NIA?
Oh yes. Subsequently, yes. Subsequently.
Just give us the general conditions of the cell.
Okay. Now I get you. I thought you were asking of that first day.
No, just the general condition that you slept under every single night.
That cell is an open cell with a burglar proofing or from ceiling to the ground. Of course, at the front part of it, that's where the building is. But behind it, that's where you now have the cell with this burglar proof. And for the floor, it's mere concrete. And I don't mean it's been plastered, no. Maybe even if it was plastered, that all ripped off now, and you can see the stones and whatever showing up on the ground.
So it was a very rough surface.
A very rough surface. Yeah. So.
And was there anything you could?
On.
Yeah. Was there anything you could use to put on?
I saw a cardboard there used by the previous occupant. That maybe at some point, I had no choice but to use it. But no, apart from that cardboard on the ground, nothing.
And because of the burglar proofing and the open state of the cell, was there anything that came into your cell that caused you any inconvenience?
Mosquitoes.
The Banjul mosquitoes.
The Banjul mosquitoes.
We've all heard that they're a special breed. Can you tell us more?
Yes. When it's dark, mosquitoes start to fly in. That becomes an issue. But yes, that was an I think they purposely left that burglar proof open that so that the mosquitoes would also help them in their torturing.
So the mosquitoes feasted on you the entire night?
Serious entire night. You always have a choice. Allow the mosquitoes to feast on you, maybe sleep a little bit, or sit at a corner, fan mosquitoes all night long.
So what happened in the morning?
Situation was.
What happened in the morning after all of that?
In the morning, it was that becomes the Friday. No contact with any one of them. I think at some point, they opened the door and Babukar Jada walked in.
And who is Babukar Jada?
So Babukar Jada, he was the army commander at the time. So when he walked in, I remember jumping from the ground, and then stood by the burglar proof. And then I start to ask him, sir, but what am I doing here? What's going on? And he starts to double no. Temgundron, Munyadron. Yes, those were his words, I remember. It's like, be calm. Yes.
Why was he telling you to be calm?
So,
what was your state at that point?
Oh no, it's like him being my commander and showing up there. To me, it's like maybe he can tell me the reason why I'm there. So that's maybe why I even jumped to stand before him.
So you were eager to see him?
Yes, no, not him, but I when I saw him, I was kind of happy that at least my commander has come to check on me. Okay. Maybe through him I can earn my freedom. Only to realize that, maybe he was there to confirm that, yes, we were there.
But he didn't provide any explanation to you as to why you were there?
No.
Do you believe
he calmed me down.
Yes.
Do I believe?
That he knew why you were there.
Later, yes.
Okay.
Before, I don't think, or I don't know.
But at least he knew you were there.
Yes.
So what happened after that meeting with him?
He left. And they closed the door behind him. I was left on my own again.
Did anything else happen on that day?
Friday, no.
So you were in the cells for most part of the day or for all of the day?
All day. All of the day, Friday.
Were you able to use the toilet or to shower? And were you eating, drinking?
Towards 5 in the evening, they brought us food.
And that was the only meal you had that day?
Yes. And when they opened the cell door for you to go and eat, that's when you will be privileged to use the bathroom. Otherwise, while you were in the cell, if you need to pee, there is a natural water bottle like this, the big ones we have in Gambia, in the cells there, so you use it to...
That was your toilet,
ease yourself.
essentially. The Evian
Yes.
bottle was your toilet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So as they open the door for you, you go with it to go and empty it and then come back with it.
And you were still in your uniform. Did you have a chance to change your clothes or anything like that?
No,
So
it was Friday, it stayed like that.
So you slept at the NIA on the Friday as well. The same process with the mosquitoes and the conditions persisted. And what happened then on the Saturday?
Same situation.
How many days did you spend at NIA?
I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then the week starts on Monday. So it's somewhere in that week. I think on a Thursday when we were transferred. So essentially I may have been at the NIA for a week.
And during this week, did anything unusual or significant happen to you?
Yes.
Kindly tell us on what day it happened and exactly what you went through.
When we came out from the weekend, Monday, I had contact with them.
Who is them?
Now the NIAs came to open my cell door.
Because essentially all throughout your interaction was with the army officers.
Yes, and I skipped a point there. I remember the army used to come and do guard duties there overnight, which were sent from State Guard by Osman Songo. Yes, every night soldiers would come perform their guard there. The only time I had interaction with those soldiers when they come is like what we call handing and taking over. You make sure you are not taking over a dead body. Yeah, so they will come confirm that, yes, I am safe and sound, and then they will leave and be outside.
So were you under the
so
custody
on
of,
Monday,
sorry Mr. Dabo, were you under the custody of the NIA or the soldiers or both?
we were under the custody of the NIA.
Okay.
But because we were army officers, maybe their command thought they can need reinforcement. And what better place to get reinforcement from than the state guards. One, because that's where I was serving, that's where Jada was serving, and we were almost independent of the general army. Maybe that's why Babukar Jara only came, but apart from that, couldn't do anything.
Because the
Yes.
state guard was directly under the office of the president, isn't that correct?
Exactly.
Okay. So what happened?
Yeah, Monday, at some point in the day, they opened my cell. Then I saw military police personnel standing out.
Did you recognize any of them?
Yes, they were from Yundum.
Do you remember their names or their ranks?
No. I remember somebody, maybe they were led by a sergeant, tall guy like me, fair in complexion. Yeah, apart from that general description, I don't know who they were.
Okay, so what did they do?
Yeah, they came, stood at the door, and then the NIA officer asked me to come out. When I came out, they took me into another room. And then this military police continued to stand guard at the door. Yes. So in that room were people seated. 4 or 5, I think, but I came to know only 2 of them. One was Sukuta Jame, and the other was Fodebari. These were the 2 senior people seated. But like I said, there was 1, 2, or 3 people also seated around the table.
Was it just a normal office, Mr. Dabo? Was it just a normal office, or was it a conference room? What I'm trying to get at is that, was this some sort of investigation panel, or it was just NI officers in a room interrogating you?
No. Well, that's where I did my interrogation.
So it wasn't a formal panel?
No. I don't know what you mean by a formal panel.
Like a conference room with perhaps heads of the different security present?
No.
Interrogating you?
No.
These were just NIA officers interrogating you?
These were just NIA officers, yes, in plain clothes.
Yes, and you said you recognized 2 people?
Yeah, because they introduced themselves to me.
Okay. As?
I am Sukuta Jame, and he is Fodebari.
And do you know what their positions were at the NIA?
Their positions?
Yes. Or how senior they were, for example?
They were senior commanders. Designation, I don't know.
That's all right. And the others, you didn't know who they were?
No, because those were not introduced.
Would you recognize them if you saw them again?
No.
Okay. So tell us what happened after they were introduced to you.
Yeah, when they introduced themselves, Sukuta Jame took charge by saying, you are brought here for an investigation that we will be conducting on you or with you, whatever. So we expect you to say the truth, because at the end of the day, we know what is going on. I say, fine. Then we get started.
Did they tell you what they were investigating you for?
At that moment, no.
Okay.
But as the investigation was progressing, that's when Sukuta told me that we are investigating because of you, me, Lieutenant O.M. Dabo, being part of an alleged plot to overthrow the government of Yahya Jammeh.
So this was the first time. So this was the
Yes.
first time you were hearing this accusation, and you realized that this was the reason why you had been arrested and detained at the NIA.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell us how the interrogations progressed.
The interrogation started by coincidentally, like you started.
Like I started.
That is my basic biography.
I hope that I didn't end like they did.
Oh, I hope not.
I hope not too. All right, go ahead.
So Sukuda was asking me about who am I? Yes, O.M. Dabo from Kiang, and on and on and on. I don't remember all that I told him. Then he kept moving on. From biography, he asked me specific questions as to my relation with certain key people. That didn't go down with me well because we had an argument over it. But later we moved on.
So what people were they trying to connect you with?
Political figures.
Like who?
Yeah, Sukuda specifically asked me what is my relationship with Bibi Dabo. I told him, well, Bibi Dabo was our MP, Kiang West. He is Dabo, I am Dabo. We may be an extended family, but I was too junior to have any contact with him. But my brother in the village was a key member of his politics. Yeah, so that was my answer.
And which Bibi Dabo are you referring to? The ex-minister during the PPP government?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And who else? Who else were you linked with?
I was asked again my relationship with Usainu Dabo. Yes, I said for Usainu, I knew he's from Sierra. But beyond that, maybe he's Dabo, I am Dabo too.
They seem to only link you with people you had the same surname with.
Exactly.
Was there any other reason apart from the surname that they would link you to these people? Was it based on tribe, for example?
We all came to know Yahya Jammeh's tribal, how do I put that? Tribalism. Well, yes, Yahya Jammeh, yes.
And you were Mandinka,
So, yes.
or you are Mandinka, of course, and all of these other people that you were
Yes.
being linked with were Mandinka.
Yes.
And they were also opposition figures.
Figures, exactly.
So were they trying to say you were opposition?
Well, that's what their question may mean. And further to that, if you are alleging me to be on the move to overthrow that government, so it's like, okay, these ones are trying with the ballot box. If they don't succeed, then let's lose our brother, to use the bullet.
So you were implicated in double trouble.
In double trouble, yes.
Because both under the Yahya Jammeh regime were quite serious allegations of being an opposition member as well as being alleged to try to overthrow the government.
Yes, yes.
So when
and that's when I deliberately asked him a question. Are you related with Yahya Jammeh too? Or rather, what is your relationship with your Yahya Jammeh?
Who is that? Who did you pose that question to?
Sukuda.
Because his surname was also Jammeh, I guess.
His surname was also Jammeh. So he says, Lieutenant Dabo, you are not brought here to ask us questions, but rather we ask you questions. So answer and let's move on. Yes.
Which was correct, I assume.
Well, yes, I was under their command.
So when you realized the seriousness of the allegations against you, can you tell us what was going through your mind, also being at the NIA office at that time? And we all know the evidence we've received before the TRRC about the kind of things that were going on at the NIA at the time.
Yeah, I begin to say, is this real?
You knew that you were in serious trouble, basically.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. Because
sorry, Mr. Dabo, did you agree to the accusations?
I vehemently denied.
And did you know anything about any coup plot that was going on at the time?
I knew of nothing.
And you did not hear of anything?
Nothing. I didn't hear of anything, absolutely.
So tell
innocent as, yes.
You were innocent of the accusations?
And knowledge, I know nothing.
So then what happened after you denied? They've accused you, you've denied, what happened next?
Yeah, they move on. Now they try to tie me with these two key figures. We moved away from that. He went further, who were my close associates in the army. Though first he did not narrow it down. But when he says close associate, I deliberately answered my wife. And that also didn't go down well with him.
Were you trying to be funny?
With that answer, he says, no, I was not trying to be funny. It's like, I was confused. Yes.
So who were they trying to link you to?
Then we'll get to that.
Okay, go ahead then.
When he says close associate, I says my wife, he says no. He says, okay, who are your close associates in the army? I say, well, in the army, we all resume at 8 o'clock. Close at 3, we all go home. If you have business to do with anybody, you move. Otherwise, you are on your own, I'm on your own. He says, no, Lieutenant Dabo, now listen to us. What is your relationship with Jaite? I say, fine, now you're coming.
And that is Lalo Jaite, of course, who had already been arrested.
That's Lalo Jaite. Mm-hmm. Yes. Say, Jaite, you asked, right? Say, okay. So I went ahead to tell him everything that I have in common with Lalo. Yes.
So it was established that you had close relationships, or you were a close associate of Jaite?
Yes, like I told you.
Yes. And at that point, did you see, sorry, Mr. Dabo, at that point, did you see Jaite again? After you had seen him on the first night when he was being transferred from one cell to another, did you see him again?
No. I believe he would also be interrogated, separately.
But he was within the NIA?
Oh yes, I believe, yes. Because the first night, like I told you, I saw him being moved to the other side.
Yes. So how long did the interrogation last for, and what happened thereafter?
The interrogation went on and on and on and on. saying that Alaji Kante, in fact, they asked me whether I know him. I say yes. How do I know him? I went ahead and explained. Key among my explanation was he was among the panel of officers during my Kellet selection board.
And what was his rank then and position, Alaji Kante?
Alaji Kante, captain. He was captain.
Okay. And what was his position in the army at that point?
Kante at that point was the commissioner, North Bank region.
And this Alaji Kante, is he the same one that testified here before the Trrc?
I may have missed his testimony, but yes, I believe yes.
Okay, and he was implicated in this coup attempt that they were accusing you of?
Exactly.
Yeah. Was there anything particular about Alaji Kante? I mean, did anything happen to him afterwards?
Alaji Kante, he fled the country.
Okay, so he wasn't interrogated or arrested then?
No, he wasn't arrested or no.
Okay. Please go on.
Yeah, so now they were trying to establish my relationship with Kante and Jaite. For they say, Kante was the mastermind, and he said, myself and Jaite can be trusted. That's how I was told. So I remember again asking, I think at some point Fodebari took over, but most of this initial interview was done by Sukuta.
Was Sukuta the more senior of the two?
I believe Sukuta is senior for Fodebari.
Yes.
Or they may have different designations, but I believe Sukuta is senior for Fodebari.
Okay. So what happened after your interrogation? Did you go back to your cell?
Yeah, before I went back to my cell, they gave me a paper, A4 paper, and say, now you write a statement based on this interrogation we had with you. But of course, bear in mind, we have enough evidence, even though you are denying, that you were a part of this coup plot. So I went ahead to draft my statement, and when I was ready, they gave me a more formal paper to transfer my draft to that one. So when I copied and read to my satisfaction, I sat back, I start tearing the draft paper I first wrote on. That's when Fodebari spoke at the other side. Stop tearing that paper. I told him, no, I've copied it all here. No, we still need it. I said, no, I'm done. So before he was getting up, coming down, for whatever reason, I fold for a second time and then keep tearing. When he walked to me, he gave me a nasty slap on my back here and got hold on my neck and said something like, you are trying to be stubborn with us. We say, don't tear, you are tearing. I say, but that's my statement here. So that action of him almost triggered a reaction from the military police officer who was standing by the door. He kind of said something like, no. And the two exchanged glances and so forth, and I know the officer calmed down. Yes, I came to realize the seriousness of what I was in.
And at that point, were you in handcuffs? Were you restrained at all?
No, I wasn't restrained.
But the military police were there to make sure
the military police, exactly.
that you were in order.
Yes, yes. So, but even they objected, to my force slap on my neck back here. Yeah, so I sat back and then looked at my paper. He took it away. Yes, I think placed it before Sukuda or before him, whatever. And said, now look, Lieutenant Dabo, you better take this seriously. You are alleged of a coup plot, the most serious criminal offense. So if you think we are joking here, you are making a mistake. Yes, so that's when those two guys, or three guys, who were seated doing nothing all along, now we are kind of waiting for an order from Fodebare. He moved from his chair, came and sat at the corner of a table with my statement in his hand, and said, Lieutenant Dabo, we know you know more than you are writing here. So say the truth. I said, this is all I know. Jaite didn't inform me of any coup d'etat, neither did Alaji Kante. So I know nothing. He says, okay. He turned to his right or left, whatever. He says, get him. That's when those guys, who all along were neutral, came on me. I think they flipped a chair under me, and then I fell on the ground, and then they started beating me, kicking, punching. And as that was going on, I had to protect my head. That's when I received another kick on my back, which I was telling you, that plus the rifle butt on my first day of arrest may have contributed to my sciatic nerve. So, but yes, these guys were all over me. And because everybody asked them to. Yes.
And apart from punching you as well as kicking you, did they use anything else to beat you?
These guys, were laying hand on anything within that room. Did they bring them there?
How long did the session take, the torture session?
It was in two phases. By two phases, at some point he restrained them. Wait.
Who restrained
them?
them?
Are you willing to change this? This for everybody. At that point, I think Sukuda left the room because they go, but I wasn't aware of what was going on around me because.
So Fodebare was clearly Fodebare was in the lead, giving orders and in control of the situation, asking them to stop whenever he wanted. Did you sustain any injuries as a result of your torture on any part of your body, apart from the kick that you mentioned on your back?
I have a scar on my back here. Now my wife is at the hearing length. She would ask me, "Lan mo lang fi gañ?" To this day.
Take your time, Mr. Dabo.
Yeah. They took a break, asking me whether I would change what I wrote. That yes, I knew of this coup plot. That's all he wants me to add in there. I insisted.
They were forcing you to confess, essentially.
Exactly.
And that was what the torture was supposed to produce, a confession.
Well, yes.
So what did they do?
I have a choice.
Yes.
Confess, stop the beating.
Yes.
Deny, continue to receive the beating.
Yes. And what about this scar that you mentioned on your back? What caused it?
I believe it was a stick or a belt, whatever these guys were hitting me with. Like I told you, I was all along protecting my head. So every part of me was vulnerable to anything they were beating me with.
Were you bleeding?
And as much as I could.
Were you bleeding?
Yes. Later I had bruises on me and which were bleeding, yes.
Do you recognize any of those 3 other NIA officers who were in the room that you couldn't really identify? Or maybe heard a name they were being called? Yes, Mr. Dabo.
I was picked up from duties, dumped with these people.
Yes.
Up to a Monday. When people appear before you, you can only know them provided if they introduce themselves.
Yes, and you had never seen them before?
And this time, no.
Okay, I understand.
I've never seen them before.
So you went through the 2 torture sessions. Essentially, was it the same thing that was being done to you in both sessions?
Exactly. But on the second one, they were trying to change tactics. No, first one, they were saying, yes, let me say, I knew of it. Then the second time, they say, oh, on the first day, you are talking of 2 sessions. Yes, because 40 stopped them, and then later, when I denied, he said, go ahead.
Yes, this was the first day of your torture.
Yes.
Yes.
So, when they couldn't get anything they want from me, I think at some point they decided to stop. And I was put back on the chair. I remember him speaking in Wolof. Whatever, something like that.
And what was that supposed to mean?
That's what Mandinkas would call follow.
Which is?
Which means that was just a small thing.
Okay, so they were threatening you with further violence.
Oh yes.
And more serious violence.
More serious violence.
Okay.
Yes. So.
But at that point, were you returned back to your cell?
Yes, I was returned back to my cell.
And did you suffer any other torture after that day subsequently?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that occasion?
I remember yesterday telling you I was picked from mile 2, but later I came to realize it was 1 and the following day.
Okay, at the NIA?
At the NIA.
Okay.
So That's why when you asked me that question, where was Jaite, I told you I believe he was undergoing his own interrogation.
Okay.
Because on day 2, when the military police came, they opened the cell door and brought me out. Sukuta told them, you can wait outside. So instead of the first day standing at the door, the second day the military police were outside.
So they were not privy to what was going on in the room?
No, no.
So what happened this second time around?
They had my statement with them. Sukuta says, Lieutenant Dabo, we've confirmed from Jaite that, yes, he did told you that his brother or cousin was about to do this coup d'etat.
And who was this brother or cousin?
Kante, Alaji Kante.
Okay.
That's how he framed the sentence.
Yes.
When he said, Jaite said, I was almost kind of mad, but I came to understand their strategy. All along these two, Fodebari and Sukuta, one was the good cop, the other was the bad cop. So Sukuta came with this news, kind of telling me that, stop being beaten like you were beaten yesterday, because here your colleague Jaite has already confirmed and confessed. I says, if Jaite said that, let him say that to my face, not with you or behind my back. Says, so that means you still are in the same position where you were. Yes. And he connected the two. He says, how about you say yes, Jaite told you this, and you are freed from all your troubles. I say, how can I say yes to something that he did not say? So I know when I said that to Sukuta, he reached the limit of his good cop here. Then he put the paper down and for everybody with his guys. Says this time Lieutenant Dabi Dingawak. Yes.
You will talk.
Wow, then you buga one denga deger popa. And same thing was repeated.
Which was? What was repeated?
The beatings.
In the same manner as before?
As before.
And how long did the beatings last for?
You asked me this yesterday, I told you the same thing.
I have to ask anyway.
Yeah, but when you are undergoing pain, a minute is an hour. So how long? How many minutes? How many I don't know.
Okay,
Yes.
I understand. So what happened after your torture?
Well, after my torture,
Did you receive any?
they put me back.
Did you receive any other injuries apart from those you received on the first night of your torture?
These are, like when you are undergoing beatings, you can sustain an injury without realizing it at that moment. So with time over time, after a day or two, when they begin to be septic or swollen, then that's when you will realize, oh, on the whole I have bruises here. I have one here. I think, on my thigh too. But those were bruises because I was putting on my military combat trouser. Maybe that, yes, saved me from some serious, but because I was only putting on an undershirt, most of the beating was situated around my neck to my back. Yes, slappings occasionally when they are able to get to my face, yes, they do that, but all along, I had to protect my head.
Did you receive any injuries on your face, even though I know you were trying to protect it as much as possible?
Swollen cheek.
From the slaps?
Yes. Yes.
Apart from slaps, did you receive any other hit?
Saga.
Yes, Mr. Dabo.
Let me summarize it this way. Everybody led a torture session on me to elicit a false confession that I was part of a group of people wanting to overthrow the government of Yahya Jammeh. Injuries, how long? Well, you are just rekindling my pain.
I don't want to do that, Mr. Dabo, so I will not belabor the point, because that is not my intention at all. I just want to elicit the facts from what happened and the truth.
Yeah, and the facts are what I'm telling you.
That's all right. We can move on. We can move on from that point if you're not comfortable. It's okay.
I think I have enough.
Very well. So after those two torture sessions, you were led back to your cell. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And what other significant event happened after that at the NIA?
We were weeks away one evening, to a Carnival magistrate court.
What day was this?
This time I have contact with Lalo and all the other. I saw some civilians which I later came to know those were all part of the same problem. Yes.
Can you tell us the names of all the people who were within this group that were accused of staging a coup against the former president Yahya Jammeh?
Ibrahim Barrow was accused number 1.
Is this the same Ibrahim Barrow that testified not too long ago before the TRRC?
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
accused
who else?
number 1.
Yes.
Mamadou Usman Saho Dumo
Yes.
was accused number 2.
Yes.
Mamadou Marena.
Yes. And 3 of these individuals are all civilians?
Civilians. All these names I'm calling you are all civilians.
Okay.
That's Mamadou Marena.
Yes.
And then 4th accused was Ibrahim Ayabo.
Yes.
And Lieutenant Lalo Jere was the 5th accused.
And Ibrahim Ayabo, was he the same one who testified as well before the TRRC?
Yes.
Yes, and you have Lieutenant Lalo Jaito, of course, he's in the military.
Yes, 5th accused. And myself, Lieutenant O.M. Dabo at the time.
Yes.
As the 6th accused.
Yes.
Accused, yes.
Were there any other people who were?
Yes, Alaji Kande was also part of the charge sheet. And they will say now at large.
Yes.
And another ex-army officer, Abdullah Sanya.
Yes.
So Abdullah Sanyang was actually released to be used as a state witness against us. And he chose to flee the jurisdiction.
Okay.
Yes, so but notwithstanding, his name was part of the charge that was leveled against us.
So the only people who basically attended or were arraigned before the Kanifing Magistrates Court were Ibrahim Barrow, Momodu Usman Saho, aka Dumo Saho, Momodu Marena, Ibrahim Yabo, Lieutenant Lalo Jaite, and yourself, Lieutenant Omar M. Dabo.
Dabo, yes.
Can you tell us the name of the case, if you remember, and the case number?
Criminal case 26 of 2000.
And it was the case versus Ibrahim Barrow and others. Others
Yes.
were the names you've already mentioned.
Yes.
And what were you charged with?
Treason.
And treason is a capital offense. It's actually the most serious offense in this country. Do you know what the penalty
Exactly.
for treason is?
Yes, death penalty
Indeed. Do you know if the
or life imprisonment.
Yes. Do you know if the Kanifing Magistrates Court had the jurisdiction to actually entertain
No.
this matter?
No,
But
the
yet
Caribbean magistrate didn't have the jurisdiction.
But yet you were taken there.
Yes, we were taken there
You were arraigned.
after working hours
And what time would that be?
between 4, 5, and 6. If offices close at 4, then we were arraigned there any time after that.
And the court itself would have closed by that time, I assume.
And they have closed.
Okay, so this was done in secret. It was like a secret trial.
Exactly.
So what happened at the court?
Yeah, at the court, our names were called. I think I remember, if my memory is having me right, a sentence like you were arraigned here, because of your involvement in trying to overthrow the government of the day.
Those were the charges.
Yes. So I hear, and the magistrate says, I hereby remand you at the State Central Prison until further, whatever comes after that, I can't remember.
So you were basically remanded
Because
to Mile 2.
I remember when I was brought out from my cell, this military police commander, who Lieutenant Combo, I told him, Charlie, thank you for rescuing me from this hell on earth.
And where were you
As
referring
officers,
to?
we were trying to, I was trying to refer to NIA, of course.
NIA was hell on earth for you.
Hell on earth, yes. So I was trying to joke with Combo because as officers, we, and he bent his head down and said, Charlie, I'm sorry, but I was asked to take you to court and then from there to Mile 2.
So it
So
was
if you go to the
it was from the cooking pot into the fire, I assume.
No.
The other way around? From the fire into the cooking pot, or?
Yeah, I heard Barrow saying it. And when you get to Mile 2, you say, Alhamdulillah.
So it was better than NIA.
Because, oh yes, NIA. Oh God.
I think you've described it enough.
Yeah.
It was hell on earth. I think that's enough description for us to know how bad NIA was. Okay. And
Yeah, we were arraigned before this magistrate and she reminded us.
yes, where were you remanded at Mile 2 prisons?
From Kanifing, we drove back to Banjul and stopped at the Mile 2. When we arrived there, then the welcoming party were waiting.
And who were they?
Soldiers standing guard at the entrance along the way before you get to the prison main headquarters. Those were soldiers who are from State Guard and do guard duties at Mile 2. Yeah, so when we go to the prison headquarters, David Coley and his lieutenants were waiting.
And what position did David Coley occupy at that time?
David Coley was the director of the prisons, the director general of the prisons.
Okay. So where were you remanded in Mile 2?
I was taken to cell number 4, maximum security wing. Myself and Dumo and Marena with Yabo.
And the rest?
Or rather, no, Yabo, I think initially Yabo and Barrow were taken to number 5. But later, Yabo was moved to number 4.
But all of you essentially
And
were under the maximum security wing.
Yes, and Jade was taken to security wing number 1.
Yes, and that corresponded with the severity, obviously, of your charges as well.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, and Mr. Dabo, I know that we have a lot of evidence on the conditions at Mile 2, so I will not go into that for the purposes of your testimony.
Okay.
I will just ask you about the condition, or I will ask you about certain rights that you had, whether they were being violated or not. For example, whether you had access to your family at this point, because from the NIA, I believe you were not allowed to contact a member of your family. When you got to Mile 2, was this possible?
It wasn't possible for the first 5 months.
So for 5 months, you were detained incommunicado?
Incommunicado, yes.
Did you have access to a lawyer?
No, but later, yes.
That was after the 5 months?
Yes.
Okay. And something very significant happened at Mile 2, and I believe this was after you had access to members of the family visiting you. Can you tell us about this particular incident which had a lot of impact on you? I know it's very difficult, but we would like you to share it with us, if you can. Just take your time.
Two years down the line, on a fateful day in March, when the morning shift took over, a prison officer told me, I will open you, you go and sort yourself out because you will be the first visitor. You have a visitor out waiting. But we understand she came very early. So the officer opened my cell. I took my chamber pot out, clean and showered myself, get ready for the 9 o'clock start of visitation. Yeah, so at 9 o'clock, I was escorted out to the visiting point. When I was seated, a lady was ushered in. She was my aunt. my dad's only sister. She came in, we sat and started the usual conversation. She said she couldn't wait any longer not to see me because it's been 2 years. The family is. I had a close relationship with her. So that's why even her siblings, would not want her to come and see me in a situation like that. And they succeeded for 2 years. But she just came. And our conversation was all about family. When my time expired, she gave me $25 to buy cigarette, which they will keep when my wife comes. She will be the one who will buy cigarette for me. And officers would keep that cigarette issued to us as and when they deem it necessary. So when my auntie gave me that money, wow. So we both left. I was being taken back to security wing back to the security wing. And the main gate of the prison was open for her to go out. She left, I left. When I came up to the prison security wing door, then I had a screeching tire on the highway. And the soldier who is on guard up sounded like the vehicle has hit her. I can see a head tie flying. So I was kind of lost, Is it somebody coming in or somebody going out? But of course, I just left from seeing my aunt.
Sorry, Mr. Dabo. I know this is very difficult for you.
She loved me. In that confused state of mind, she was crossing the road, not aware of her environment. And then the speeding vehicle just hit her. And she died on the spot.
I'm sorry. She died on the spot. I'm sorry. How tragic. I'm so sorry, Mr. Dabo.
Ay. Yeah.
Mr. Dab, I'm sorry that I had to put you through this painful experience and for you to relive it. But kindly tell us what happened afterwards, because you normally go out to court. This was during your trial?
Yeah. Later in the day, Jaite's wife came to Jaite brought my provisions. I said, Charlie, where is my wife? She said, Aji is sick today. Day 2, Aji is sick today. Day 3, Aji is sick today. But every day, Bintu is bringing my provision. So, my wife would tell me on the fateful day, when she and Bintu arrived, she was informed by the guards that a visitor came to visit your husband who had an accident and killed and died on the road here. That's how she left Mile 2 to go to the death house to go and confirm who was she. Only for her to realize that it was my aunt from Tanje. So, 3-4 days, no news of what was going on. The only excuse was my wife was sick. Later, when I came to know of it, I mourned her death. My colleague prisoners, joined me, to do our prayers for her. And I kind of accepted. But little did I know, when we are going to court, immediately the vehicle came out. There was the spot on the road. That blood stain remained on that road till it faded with time. So every day I was leaving that prison to go to court. I was greeted by that memory.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Dabo. That must have been so traumatic for you to relive that every single day that you left Mile 2. And at that point, where were you being tried? Because you had told us that you had appeared before the Carnifing Magistrates Court. You were remanded at Mile 2. What subsequently happened in relation to your trial?
Our case was now being tried at the High Court.
Okay.
First, we were arraigned before Justice Wallace Grant. May his soul rest in peace.
Amen.
I hold him high up because he stood up to the powers that be wanting to deliver justice. Our case has been dragging, on and off. One day he told the DPP, Chief Akomayo Agim, I'm going to adjourn for the last time. When next you appear and you did not bring your witness, I'm going to throw this case out. So when he threatened the DPP with that, he was rescued.
So, Mr. Dabo, are you trying to say that for 2 years you were going up and down the courts and the prosecution had not actually produced one single witness?
One single witness.
Wow. So there was no evidence against you for these serious allegations?
No evidence. Myself and Jaite were represented by Usman Silla and Yabo as well. Lawyer Usainu Dabo was representing Marina and Dumo. And even for Marina, he was doing it pro bono. And Ibrahim Barrow was allocated council by the state, which came to be my party. So, but yes.
So subsequently, which judge inherited that case?
When Grant was rescued of our case, we sat for months. Then later, our case was allocated to Justice Ahmed Belgore.
And what kind of judge?
Commonwealth judge.
Okay.
From Nigeria.
So what did he do in relation to your case?
Case has been going on. No changes. Every time he adjoined, we appear. The DPP comes with a different story. So, in 2003, court was heading to summer recess. And on one day, at the courts, the DPP stood to say to the judge that our case has been going on for 3 years, but actually, the state have no witness against me and Lalo Jaite. So therefore, he is asking the court to acquit and discharge us. Or no, maybe he used one word, acquit.
Or perhaps
Like
discharge.
Okay. Discharge, yeah, something like that. So the judge asked him, is that your position? He said yes. He stand down for 30 minutes, went into his chambers and wrote his ruling. We were reconvened and he read his ruling. And a line says, the DPP having graciously said that, they don't have a case against us. So now he, the judge, is acquitting and discharging myself and Lieutenant Lalo Jaire.
Yes, and Mr. Dabo, of course, you've been able to give me a screenshot of that ruling, but I did request that you provide me with the entire ruling. And when you do, I will make an application to the chairman so that we would admit it into evidence at a later date.
Okay, I will do that when I'm done here.
Yes, together with other publications that you have of your case.
Okay.
So you were subsequently discharged with Lalo Jaite?
Yes.
So after 3 years, you were released from Mile 2 and you were a free man?
3 years, 1 month.
3 years, 1 month. And what happened, before we move on to your other issues, what happened to the rest of the case?
The rest of the case, they waited until after the summer recess. Court was reconvened. Next, Ibrahim Yabo and Marina were also acquitted and discharged. And we are left with Dumo and Ibrahim Barrow, who were also finally acquitted and discharged. So essentially, the whole 6 of us were freed by this judge.
So it was established that there was no evidence that you actually planned to overthrow the government?
Exactly.
Do you have any explanation as to why you were arrested in the first place and essentially a case fabricated against you? Do you know the motive behind that?
Anytime I try to think over this issue, I never get a concrete answer. Sometimes I tend to see agent provocateur. That is the state trying to engineer a crime that was not. Because Yaya Jammeh was doing that to get rid of myself and Jaire from the army. Because it's testimony in the army that promising young officers. No doubt he served 2 years as Jammeh's ADC. And no doubt I was transferred from Farafenye to State House, maybe to... yeah, so, and Jammeh being who he is, he don't want the army to be professional. So anybody who shows signs of professionalism has to go. Sometimes I tend to believe this line of thought.
And why didn't Yahya Jammeh want any promising professional young officers in the army?
Yeah, because when the army is professional, they will be independent. And Yahya Jammeh don't want an independent army. The rest is history.
And is that because they would...
People are soldiery ranks that don't deserve it. Yes, people were enlisted into the army that were not qualified to be in that uniform. At the end of the day, this is what we all had in common. The flag of the Gambia. But it got to a stage, it was no more this. It was Yahya Jammeh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo. And after that, you left Mile 2, you were released. What happened to your employment with the army?
One day I was seated at my residence, Mile 7. A dispatch soldier walked in and complimented me, handed me a letter with a choir book to sign, receive. He asked of Jaide. I told him Jaide went to Badibu. But can I receive on his behalf? He said yes. I received and signed. When he left, I opened my letter, and there it was from the army headquarters. And the content read like this: we were authorized to discharge you from the army with immediate effect because of security reasons. Hand over back to the army all your issues, and by issues, all the equipment issued to me by the army. So there we were discharged from the army. And the letter was dated August 8, 2003.
And a discharge is a civilized dismissal, I would assume.
Yes, yes, yes.
Despite the fact
Yes.
that you were exonerated and you were innocent, declared by the court and all of
Yes.
that, I guess you had confirmed
Yes.
that Yahya Jammeh indeed wanted you and Lalo to be out of the army.
Army, yes. Because if you look at the army's wording, we are authorized. Where does the army get its authority from? From the Ministry of Defense. We had a permanent secretary, Ministry of Defense, but the Minister of Defense was Yahya Jammeh. So naturally, it was Yahya Jammeh who was dismissing myself and Jaite from the army.
And of course he
but
was...
not the army was dismissing.
Yes, and of course he was also the commander-in-chief of the army.
Exactly.
Okay. So you were discharged. Did you get all of your benefits?
Can I take a 2 minutes break, please?
Very well, that's okay.
I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
Hello, Saga.
Yes, Mr. Dabo, you're back.
Sorry, I had to use the restroom.
That's fine. No need for any explanation. Are you ready to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to know whether all your benefits were paid to you and Lalo Jaita after you were dismissed.
Yes.
Okay.
All our benefits were paid.
Yes. Can you just finally tell us in conclusion what impact this horrific experience that you've explained to us has had on you and your family?
I don't know where to start on that. Yeah. But thank God I had a strong wife behind me, young as they were, but they were able to hold the fort before we came back. After coming out, losing my employment, I had to be fed by her family for well over a year. That's the lowest point of every man's dignity. To be receiving your lunch from your in-laws just because you could not put on the food on the table for your family. Yes, but luckily I was able to secure employment. But the fear of living around Jame never left us. And having lost a loved one along the way, occasionally, you will have memories of those. And those would become your bad days. Yes, so the group.
And what led to you leaving the country?
Jame never leave me alone. Or his operatives, let me put it that way this time around. I was living in London Corner. But somebody shows up. And guess who he was? Sanamanja. Blah. We call him Blah.
And Sanamanjang, of course, was also part of the notorious Jungler hit squad.
The most, yes. So, he was my schoolmate at Kalaji Primary as well. We met at the Johnson, right? And he was kind of like asking me, where do I live? If I live east, I pointed west to him. But I knew I was just playing fool. I knew this boy knew where I was. So, were they trying to use a familiar face around me to locate me? Time will tell. One day I was in bed at night. I saw a silhouette figure, walking around my back door, window rather. I wake my wife up. I ask her, did you see that? She says, no. I say, okay. Take cover. I look around. So whether it was my mind playing with me or it was the real thing, that was the continuous fear I kept to live in. But those fears ended up being confirmed. In one of my employment errands, I was privy by a senior security officer who took me around and asked me a question. Lieutenant Dabo, will you allow it to happen for a second time? And before he asked that, I saw him looking to make sure nobody is at ear hearing, yes. I said, what do you mean? He says, you are not a kid. You had a brush with this government. You escaped. you continue to live around here. And right now, there are intelligent issues, that is trying to connect you with whatever is going on, whether confirmed or confirmed. But he tell me, let me tell you that this time around, when they get you, I believe the story would be different. Means I escaped the first one. This time around, when they get me, they will either kill me life or kill me in the process. When I was told that, I left the place. I came back to work. I was living with that confusion. What to do next? I've tasted being unemployed in the Gambia. Would I risk that by coming plain and telling my superiors? Or do I look for plan B? I chose plan B.
And where were you working at this particular time?
I was working at the U.S. Embassy in Banjul.
So you had a very good job.
A very good job.
But you had
to pay twice a month.
So you had to sacrifice.
Yes.
And what did you end up doing?
I ended up fleeing the country with my 3-year-old daughter as a camouflage at the airport. Should I be asked? My excuse would be, I'm taking her out for a holiday to her grannies until we safely leave the source of the Gambia.
And where did you go to?
And then I came to the U.S. straight.
And at that time, who was in the States that you knew?
States? What do you mean, who was in the state? A lot of Gambians are here.
I mean, relatives.
Have to lodge me.
Close relatives.
Close relatives.
Yes.
My wife came for a holiday to her family. So when I received this message, I told her, wait a minute. When we discussed it, then she said, well, she is waiting for the choice I would make. But all she knows is, I am lucky to be privy by this particular individual. So I had to choose to leave.
Okay. And eventually your whole family were relocated to the US.
Yes.
And that's where you currently are living and working.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
When I look back, I'm grateful to Lalo's wife for first telling me that news, because otherwise, as a duty officer, I should not have been easily taken down. Number two, I'm grateful to the lawyers and the judges. Number three, this particular guy, officer. Otherwise, I know Jame would have got me for a second time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dabo. I don't have any further questions for you. I will refer you now to the chairperson, to the chairman. The commissioners may have questions for you, and then you'll be given an opportunity for any final remarks that you may have. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, over to you.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Lieutenant Dabo, for your testimony. We share your pain. You suffered enormously. And so special memories and sympathies for your aunt who died tragically after visiting you. But again, thank you so much for your testimony. Commissioners, if you have any questions, come to ask. If not, Mr. Dabo, if you have any final remarks to make, please proceed to make them now.
Final remarks. You've said in your motto, never again. And I wave the flag before you here. And it says, for the Gambia, our homeland, we strive and work and pray that all may live in unity, freedom, and peace each day. I was a soldier, and deep inside I still feel like one. So if this action you are doing is geared towards the actualization of those beautiful words in our national anthem, Alhamdulillah. But I let you know one thing for a fact. The whole country suffered for 22 years. And if you say never again, it should be all hands on deck for never again. To allow one man to come and take a whole country for a ride. Well, who feels it knows it. Some of you may hear our stories like any other stories. But for us who went through it, I will conclude by a sentence I read from one book. It says, you will not count me among the broken ones, but I cannot say that I am normal either. I have been, and this, so that is it. The Gambia is what we have. So let's protect her from every element of bad leadership. That's what brought us this, irrespective of which level. So I thank you for giving me the opportunity to say my part, summary as it is. But thank you for the time.
We should be the ones to thank you for coming to share your stories with us. Sir, we are in the effort to establish a historical record. We do have some victims who relive those very difficult pain and abuse that they go through. You have gone through that this afternoon, but we share your pain, and thank you enormously for coming to testify before the commission. This brings us to the end of the proceedings for today. We will meet again tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Thank you all very much, and thank you, Lieutenant Dabo. The meeting is adjourned.